Hello everyone, and welcome to this month's video of Aries Dragon. Here we have a lovely pencil of Aries Dragon. This is just me doing the basic and adding in chest line work and stuff, and just further detailing the pencil. I believe I did this in Photoshop. I did go back to Procreate, I think, and there's parts of it where I use Procreate and Photoshop, and it's just me kind of detailing the muscles and the wings and stuff like that, or making the wings bigger. This is very much like the star sign Aries. We've got the ram horns, and this dragon is a fire. The element Aries is actually a fire element, so I really wanted to, or it's a sun sign should I say, and the element is fire. And I really wanted to capture that kind of raw firepower that Aries has. Aries, I've got a few Aries friends and family members in my life, and I really wanted to capture the raw fire and tenacity, and I suppose passion that Aries people have, and capture that in the dragon as well. So so we'll talk about the story in a minute. It's just me penciling. This is me doing very rough pencils of the Aries dragon before I went to start painting. I believe I did a lot of the colorization in Procreate, and then I exported after I did the pencils in Photoshop, brought that into Procreate, then did the painting in Procreate, got it to a level where I could only go so far, then I brought it back to Photoshop and then finish off the painting process in Photoshop. So that was a cool process. I really enjoyed making this one. This is probably so far one of the dragons I like the most. There may be another one that surpasses it, but Pisces was probably up there, and then Aries is now kind of my top one. It's my hot favorite. Excuse the pun there, the hot favorite. It's just very fiery and very cool. It's a lot of fun to make this, and it was just a cool kind of piece. So here I'm just kind of making the tail look a little bit more dynamic. And the reason why I've done this is I wanted to really show the tail kind of whipping around the body and leading it goes off stage, the tail, and then it kind of comes back into the canvas. It leads the viewer's eye back into the actual dragon. Here's me tilting it around, playing around with it, giving it the right angle and getting it right. So yeah, I hope you can see. And then obviously I went to grayscale with this. Just did a base paint, basically did a flat grayscale layer underneath. Then I worked out the values and that of the piece of the actual dragon, and then the background. So that's how I worked on this one. I basically do different things every time, just to kind of break up the creativity or make it a bit more exciting, if that makes sense. So this is me just putting in lighter values, and you've got the grayscale value there. So today I'm probably going to talk a little bit more about my painting process in between telling the story of this, and which I'll go over in a second. But you can see here that I basically paint flat grayscale color, then flat grayscale tone should I say, not color, and then I clean it all up. I'm basically cleaning up the layer, and this is the layer I think I bring into Procreate as well, or Photoshop. And you can see I'm just tidying it all up, and then I obviously apply more light areas, dark areas, shadows, and make it all make sense. But I have two layers, one for pencil and one for grayscale flat value underneath. And you could do this in Procreate or Photoshop as well. You could honestly do this all in Procreate or Photoshop. I just use Photoshop because Photoshop, I do like Procreate because like sometimes I'm working all day on the computer, then at night I might want to watch some TV and relax, and I've got a habit of taking Procreate into my lounge room and just kind of sketching there when I have a free time, or I don't want to be working on the computer the whole day. So that's the benefit of both. But the problem with Procreate is, unless you buy the latest iPad, I think the file size are limited as well, so I like to paint my paintings 1.5 meters or 1.3 meters wide canvases on the longest edge, simply because it allows me to print them larger and then also use it as a reference to make the original painting as well with acrylics as well. As you can see here, I'm just putting in the light tones and the dark tones. It's great to work out your values from the early stages, you know, where are your light colors going to be, where are your dark colors going to be. Gives you a sense of also lighting, where is the light coming from. We definitely wanted the light coming from above, top left, and then emanating out from the fire from his mouth. So he's going to have fire coming out of his mouth, and that creates that I suppose that mood of that you know, heat and I suppose the passion and fire of the dragon. So we'll talk about grayscale in a minute, but we'll talk about also Aries, the star sign, and also the storyline behind all the Zodiac Dragons. So there is actually, I'm kind of developing a module at the moment. We didn't have the stat block. Well, I've got a stat block put aside for this, but it's very rough. And part of the problem is I don't want to release all the stat blocks. So we've already given 5. We're giving away 5 of the stat blocks, including Sagittarius at the end of the year will be coming. I think we've done Gemini. Gemini's coming up very soon, so I'll be maybe I might even just release the Gemini painting and do a short 10-minute video. It might not with Gemini's June painting. I won't actually do the painting. I'll just show you the painting and then talk about the story and talk about the stat block. So you'll get a stat block in June as well. We're now in May. So, you know, there'll still be 5 stat blocks that people will be getting, and then we're going to at a later date, we'll release a dragon book or a Zodiac Dragon book as well, with baby dragons, adult dragons, different versions of each dragon, and go from there. And so the story goes with the whole Zodiac Dragon. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in previous videos, but I'll for people that are new to this channel, I'll go into it a little bit. The whole idea is that the Grand Wizard, one of our Grand Wizards in the Luminous Ages universe, is Thoth, or he manifested in ancient Greece and Egypt as Hermes Trismegistus. And we've got a funny line, it's Hermes Trismegistus, the most magical wizard that ever existed. Kind of rhymes, it's a funny pun. That's a comic book that I'm writing and developing for future works as well, and it's about basically the human manifestation of Thoth, the god Thoth, the god of magic, and he has the book of magic. So the god artifact that he controls is actually the book of Thoth, or the book of magic in the Luminous Ages universe. He's also very magical. He's very powerful. Is he a god? The question is, will he be a god in our universe? We're not sure. I don't want to reveal it yet. But he's definitely working towards becoming a god in the Luminous Ages universe. But what happened is, on Earth, he was a great astronomer, and he looked up at the constellations in the sky, and he saw that the constellations were creating like obviously the star signs, but the star signs he basically manifested and turned them into dragons. So each star sign also had a respective dragon species he created out of the constellation. So he looked up in the stars, he drew that onto his books, and then he brought them to life. So they're actually a species of dragon that were created with dream magic. He's a luminary, and he was able to kind of draw and manifest these creatures, and they basically bred on their own. They basically became their own species on planet Earth, and he then took them away from Earth and brought them to Equatoria because they were a big threat to humanity. And some of them, they weren't actual dragon gods, but they were bloody dragons, so they were quite dangerous, you know, and so you had to watch yourself. So that's the storyline, and that's how it goes. Gives you a bit of a rough idea of the storyline of Hermes Trismegistus and the whole storyline of Zodiac Dragons, and why I've created the Zodiac Dragon series. Obviously, we've got Year of the Dragon in 2024. I have a calendar coming out September, October for 2024, so hopefully all the artworks will be done by late September. We'll go to Kickstarter with it. There's only 5 star signs to go. I just finished Taurus today. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. So we have a calendar, we have tapestries, and maybe the module will be released as well. Maybe we will release the module of the Zodiac Dragon. It'll be like a booklet, like a 30-page booklet, maybe with a small campaign. It depends on my technical writer's abilities and and whether I get time to do it as well. So obviously art is the first thing. So going away from the story, let's go back to technical. I think we've hit the 11 minutes. So want to talk about what I've done here. Basically 3D modeled a scene in the background of like a castle that's on fire. And then I've obviously painted on top of it. So I've painted smoky clouds. So the whole castle is burning. The Aries Dragon has destroyed it with pure fire and rage. And I just started painting in all the clouds, all the atmosphere. And also I started applying color. I used a color overlay layer and a color layer to actually, I suppose, add depth to the piece or start to add color to the piece. Simple as that. So I went through a process of just using textured brushes, kind of like a rock texture brush, just to create depth using overlay, and just kind of lightly touching it to give a suggestion of texture in the wings, and to basically apply details to it. So and this is now, obviously I really rushed to go towards the colorization process. So you could spend way more time painting it all in grayscale than just applying a bit of color. But here I kind of merge the layers together. I start to merge the pencils down and start to paint on top of it all. So I merge the pencils with the undercut colors, the overlay color layer, and make sure that it's all blended as one kind of layer. So lots of fun. So feel free to leave comments on what you think of the painting in the YouTube channel. Let me know what star sign you are, and maybe let me know also what star sign you can't wait to see as a dragon. Like I said, we've done up to Aries, about to finish Taurus. That's coming out very soon. That'll be out in June or July. We may release 2 videos. We may do a snippet video of Gemini and then also Taurus together. So you get both of them in 1 month, because basically Gemini is just going to be a stat block and more of a story-driven one. So it's a lot of fun making this, as I said. And I'm just applying shadows. So I'm going in with a multiply layer and just putting in shadows in the dragon, just to create that depth and obviously to contour and show the lighting. Now obviously the light, the warmth from the mouth is going to be the focal point, and that light that it's breathing fire. It's just burnt the castle behind. But it's also, I suppose it's, that fire that it's emanating from its mouth and hitting the ground, that fire is going to be quite intense. And how can I say this? It's going to radiate a lot of heat, energy, and light, have a light source of its own. So there'll be, obviously, there's light coming from the top left, from the sun or whatever. It might be, it's an overcast day. So it could be that it's, it's God rays coming and hitting him. I didn't make that the focus, that it's got God rays, because I left that for the next painting. But I think the big one was the fire that it's breathing. I want that to become the major kind of light source that is lighting up the whole dragon, I suppose. You know what I mean? So, and you'll see that in a moment. Like I'm still rendering it all up. It takes a while to render a character or a monster like this, a dragon like this. So it is quite a lengthy process. Sorry, that's just my chair. It's a squeaky chair. I need to get an oil can onto it. So, but yeah, as I was saying, it's just a process of rendering this up, putting like where the light is going to hit everything. I'm always thinking about lighting. Like I'm trying my best to, like I'm thinking to myself, where is the light, where's the directional light coming from? Is it coming from the top left? Where would the shadows be casting? Where would they be going on the actual object or creature or environment? And so as you can see, I've even got a cast shadow under the hand of the left hand of the Aries Dragon, and even a cast shadow under the neck. So everything, I'm always thinking about the lighting and the color and how it reacts and stuff, and warming it up. And I wanted like sort of tiger stripes around the legs of the dragon, so that was fun making that, doing all that. So This has been a big project. Like, I thought it would have been easy, but with all my other schedule with comic books and stuff like that, it's just been like, wow, I'm nearly there. There's only 5 to go, and still got 7 months left in the year, which is exciting. 7 months and a bit, and a week maybe. So, you know, maybe I'll get a head start on Cancer and Leo, and then we've just got Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Scorpio, and Libra to go, which is exciting. So it should be fun doing those. So yeah, just applying more shadows, more details, all that sort of stuff, and going into it in depth. Probably the last 10 minutes, I'm going to talk about how you could write a stat block for this. So if you can't wait for the book and you just want to make your own stat block based on this artwork, I'll tell a story. Like, what I'll do is I actually will record notes and tell a story, because it's also good for me to go back to, and I suppose when I'm finishing off the stat block and go, hey, I forgot about this, you know, we need to add this into the stat block. So it'll be a good reference point for me when I'm finishing off the technical writing of the stat block with myself and Tim. But it's also good for you guys if you want to, guys and ladies, if you want to write your own stat block. I'm cool with it, but just keep in mind it's not the official one, and I'll be doing the official one later. So yeah, and we'll talk about that probably the last 10 minutes as well of the video. So it'll be right at the end, and I'll talk about the story of the dragons, the Aries Dragons, and how they work as well. So here I'm just, again, applying shadows. It's a lengthy process painting of getting the shadows right, the lighting right. I kind of noodle. Maybe I procrastinate a bit with my art, I don't know. I do my best, but I find that like there's a lot of details. Dragons are a lot more work, I think, especially if you're going to put them in a scene like an environment like this castle that's falling apart or being burnt. There's a lot of work in getting that right, and so I just keep on painting and get rid of details. And sometimes I find that if you do, like what I did, put a textured brush underneath first, the problem with that is it does make the painting more messy, when it's probably easier just to do flat color and then put texture in later. That's my advice. I kind of went about it the wrong way. I think because I was using the iPad for a bit as well. So, but here I'm just putting in the highlights, the texture of the actual hands and the skin texture. And I also apply more overlay, like more orange and yellows to it, so it becomes a lot more orange and yellow. So as you can see, this is still so rough. Like, there's still a process of me going in. I need to go in and actually refine all the teeth, paint the lips, paint the nose, get all those details, really the niggly details, I suppose, sorted, because if I don't do that, it's not going to look good, you know. See, from a distance you can go, I can get away with this level of detail, but then when you zoom in on the painting, you find that there's a lot more going on or going wrong with the piece, so you have to spend time in, I suppose, fixing it up, making it look refined. So it looks okay here, but as soon as you start zooming in, you see the problems with the painting. I did switch off the fire coming out of its mouth. I find it was easier to kind of get everything right with the piece first, and then put the fire back in, and then work out the lighting from the fire. You know, create that, I suppose, the cast light, or obviously the flame is going to cast light as well. It's going to light up the surrounding areas, but it's also going to cast shadows as well, because it's such a dramatic and powerful light. You know, it's like, imagine a big flame, you know, flame torch or whatever. You know, I mean, you've probably been near a big flame, like a camping, and you've burnt wood, a campsite, and you've seen, like, when you put a lot of logs on the fire and it gets really intense. You know, that's really what it would be like. That would be like 1/10 of what it would be like to be attacked by a dragon, you know. So that gives you an idea. So here I'm still zoomed in, working out details, you know, lighting on the tail, lighting on the claws, all that fun part, you know. Unfortunately, you know, well, the reality of doing all the art yourself, like, you know, not relying on artificial intelligence, I don't want to get into that sort of a debate now, but it is a lot of work, and I see why a lot of artists like myself kind of get a bit pissed off with that. People can just type in words and an image just comes up with no effort almost, you know, apart from the writing down words, you know. So it does take a lot to develop all these artworks in time, and it's all, you know, original ideas that we come up with. You know, artists look at, it's not the same as artificial intelligence. Artists will look at references and they'll look at nature, they'll look at a whole range of things, but they will look at it as an inspiration or a source, but they'll still develop and paint it the way that they're going to paint it. You know what I mean? So that's the benefit of a human artist over anything else. So as you can see, just noodling details, you know, and putting the tiger stripes on it as well. He's got tiger stripes on his legs. I'm not sure if I keep that, so sorry about that. Sometimes I get messages from random people. And so, you know, I'm just really using the paintbrush, I sometimes use a smudge tool as well. I like using the smudge tool because it kind of, you can select the color around it and work from there. There's me. I'm on the video. I think I forgot to turn off the video. So that was me. Wow, that was not in my studio. So yeah, that was in my old studio, basically in my house. So now I've built the brand new studio, and I might do a video. I think I've got a video of me with interviewing another professional in my studio. So the next video for this month as well that's going to come out is with Matt Stawicki. He's an amazing artist from Dragonlance, Dungeons & Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, all that sort of stuff. He's worked on an amazing project. He's got his own series of dragons. It's coming up very soon. We just finished recording that in my new studio. This is me in my old studio, basically in the house, which is so great having my new studio because I've actually got my house more freed up in terms of space now. So I can put all my art in the big studio and all my stock, a lot of my stock in there, and have more space to myself. Also, the great thing is, you know, just that separation of work-life balance. Like I said, like when I go inside to relax, I really go in to relax unless I have to go back to my computer. But, you know, that's the big difference. All I can really take inside of me is a Procreate and a sketchbook, or maybe a laptop and do some writing, or my accounting or something like that. So that's the benefit of having your own kind of art studio, separate space. And the only downside is when I want to eat. I mean, I've got a fridge with some fruit in there and drinks. But if I really want to get food from the kitchen, like a coffee, I have to walk into the kitchen. But the benefit of that is I'm not sitting still in one position. I'm not hurting my back. I'm actually getting a chance to get up and walk and go inside and stretch my legs and not end up with sciatica or some horrible back issue, or, you know, some sort of health problem. So as you can see here, I'm painting the wings. I'll use overlay layer a lot. I'm using the soft brush, I believe, or the smudge tool. I think I use the soft brush, yeah, just a normal soft brush. And just painting, and it's just a really lengthy detailing process. Putting in the shadows. I put the fire back in just to kind of show where the fire is going to hit. I really wanted to make sure the background is very grayscale. Here I've gone in again with a textured brush, painting texture on the wings to kind of bring it. I think the texture just kind of creates more depth and illusion. An illusion of it being more realistic. Just using basically, it's not a special brush, it's just like a dotted textured brush, just to give it texture along the whole piece and bring it to life. You know, obviously it's not complete yet. It's taken a bit more longer than this. So yeah, I'm only going to talk about the painting process for another 5 minutes, and then we're going to go into, I suppose, the storyline of the Aries Dragon. So So here I've gone back to grayscale because I realized, like, if I want the dragon to pop, I'm going to have to put a lot of contrasting values. So what I did is I did a lot of black and whites in the dragon, and I pushed back the blacks in the background and made it more grey in the background, I believe. So what I've done is increase the contrast in the actual dragon itself, and then done the whole process of you know, playing around with the values to get the values right, so that the dragon pops from the background. So that's the big important thing. Having that dragon pop is really important. Having the lighting pop as well. I was playing around with the color balance to get that going right. So yeah, it's just more noodling, detailing. I'm going in with the ram horns to really make him look like ram horns, you know. And yeah, I suppose it's a lengthy process of getting that right, you know. And just detailing, I wanted to put fur on the ram because obviously it's a ram, so it's going to have some fur in it, you know. So it's going to have all that sort of cool stuff. And now it's really starting to come together. At this point, I'm kind of like, give it a break, and I come back to it a day later or 2 days later, and I just look at it and I go, what is it missing? You know what I mean? What does it need? You know? And sometimes it takes a while to really figure that out. You know? So sometimes I'm like, it needs this, or it needs that, or it doesn't need that, you know? And I'm really, all I'm doing here is just applying more shadows, more texture, more contrast, blending it all together, detailing it. I call it noodling, the noodling part where I'm cleaning up everything, you know, all my messy mistakes with those random brushes that I put in to create texture. And really it's refinement. At this stage I'm just refining the painting and really making sure that it starts to come together. And this process, that refinement process, it does need breaks. Like you might need to take a night off and come back to it the next morning, or you might need to take 3 hours, or I sometimes like to have 2 or 3 paintings going at once. Sometimes I can't, and sometimes I'm switching between comic book pages and this to try and really see what is wrong with the painting, you know. Like sometimes you can't see it. You obviously need to flip the canvas, so a good idea is to flip your canvas. I don't show myself flipping it too much in this, but I actually did, probably just didn't record it. And it's just a matter of refining these horns, really making sure these horns make sense and have that kind of cool look to them, you know. And here I'm just going into, and this is where I start to really apply the fire, make the fire look more like fire. I go in and really, really create the highlight of the flame. I also, I suppose I really, really get in there and make it look very, very kind of dramatic with the lighting. So what I do is once I've created the light source, I know, okay, that's where the flame is. I then have the yellow light expanding out, and I basically created a yellow flame energy that's coming out from the dragon, emanating out and hitting everything. So really everything that is within the range of that flame coming out of its mouth is lit up. And you see that I'll do that in the painting process now. So yeah. So storyline we're going into the storyline, the last 10 minutes. We're going to talk about that now. of the actual dragon, so the Aries Dragon. So Aries, obviously, like I said, it has a lot of fire attacks. This is a very aggressive dragon. They're very solitary, so they don't really hang around. Sometimes they find other Aries dragons and they procreate with other Aries dragons, but they have a very small, tight-knit group or family that you never see them in packs or herds. You might see them in a small family together, like 4 or 5 Aries dragons together, and hanging around and supporting each other. But they're never like a big herd like the Taurus dragon or the Pisces dragon. Like the animal, the ram, they are a solitary creature, and they even fight amongst each other, so they might even bang heads against each other. Obviously that's a stubborn Aries or ram thing to do. So that's basically how this dragon goes. If you do happen to befriend this dragon, if you can charm it, it's a big if. I would say that it has a really good high charisma. It doesn't mean just because it's feisty and fiery doesn't mean that it doesn't have a good personality. It actually has a great personality as a dragon, but it is quite fiery. And to charm it, once you get it on your side, it is a very positive creature. It is a very generous creature. It'll fight alongside you. It does talk, so it's very optimistic, and it's very courageous. So it'll, like, if you befriend an Aries dragon and it charges into battle with you, it's going to be on the front line. It's going to be like really. The only problem is because it's so courageous and energetic and it's a very enthusiastic dragon. You'll find it is very short-tempered, impulsive, impatient. So I don't know if those of you that know World of Warcraft and Leroy Jenkins, it's kind of like Leroy Jenkins. You know, I don't know if you know Leroy Jenkins. Yeah. There's basically World of Warcraft seeing a YouTuber basically charge into battle with one of his characters, and is like he wiped the whole party, attacking a whole hive of dragons or something, baby dragons. So because he couldn't wait to basically, they were all trying to discuss strategy of what they were going to do in World of Warcraft, but he just charged into battle. So that's how this dragon is. As you can see, it's really starting to come together at the end. That light source of the fire, it shows the warmth of the character of this dragon. I really went in, I obviously pulled it back into grayscale to see what is popping out, and of course the head pops out because you've got the lightest lights of the head against the darkest darks of the background, the grayscale of the background, and it really is popping out really strong, this dragon. Like I was really happy with it in the end, because obviously that light source of the dragon, the fire coming out of its mouth, really created, I suppose, a story. And so that I knew that, okay, it's breathing fire, that warmth and energy is going to be where all the lighting, it creates a direction of where the lighting falls and all that sort of stuff. So it was starting to come together. Just, it created a focal point for me, I suppose. That's what it did. So this dragon is a dragon of justice as well. So it will fight for righteous causes. It is very they are a very fiery and tenacious sign. This Zodiac Dragon will fight to the death. You know, it is sort of, you piss off its family or friends, it will fight to the death. You know, it's not scared to fight for the things it loves, and it's incredibly passionate. You know what I mean? About certain, it might be passionate about any sort of cause that it attaches itself to. Hope that makes sense. So a lot of the traits of Aries, the star sign, are also applied to Aries, the dragon, you know, in this artwork. So in terms of other things like, you know, I would say the challenge rating would be a 10 for something like this. It'd be pretty high. It wouldn't be easy to fight this sort of a dragon. And it would still have speed. It would have a speed, but maybe a dash ability as well. Like it's the sort of thing that it will charge or into battle or kind of you know, go ahead without you and just charge in and do all sorts of crazy things. So it is a very, very fiery dragon. It would have things like you know, lava, blood flow attacks, and fire, you know, all sorts of fire spells coming out of its mouth. It only really breathes fire from its mouth. You see smoke coming out from its nose occasionally when it's angry, but that flame is really intense. However, it does take a while for that flame to charge up again. So if you piss it off, it goes into battle, it gets angry, it will be incredibly intense, incredibly strong and hot, and you got to watch out. Like, it will tear you to bits. But it does have a period where it needs to charge up again because it's so intense, the heat, and it's such a strong fire sign. It's very strong compared to like Sagittarius, where it has multiple different attacks, and maybe even Leo has a few different attacks, and Leo is kind of more, I wouldn't say, well, it's more controlled, or it has different ways of hitting its enemy. The Ram, the Aries Dragon, has its main attacks. It has its charge attacks with its horns. Like it will charge at you with its horns, but it will take a long time to charge up that big fire. It basically is a fireball attack. You know, those of you that play the wizard, it's like a big fireball attack, and so it needs time to charge it up. It does not have unlimited fire. That fire attack, you might only do like 4 in a day. You know, it may only have 3 or 4 fireball spells, and within each fireball attack, big fire or flamethrower, it also has a flamethrower attack. It takes time to charge that up, and the fireball is more intense. The flamethrower is a bit not as intense, but more steady. But the only other it does have claw attacks. It can attack or swipe with its claws, but that's not the focus. Its claws are a lot more smaller. It look big here. They are big, but compared to the other dragons, like the Leo Dragon, which is a fire sign, the Leo Dragon's claws and paws, hands, are quite bigger and stronger. It can do claw attacks, and it can swipe. It does have a swipe attack. But the main focus, I suppose with an Aries Dragon, we flipped back to Aquarius there. The main focus of the Aries Dragon is the ram charge attack with its horns. And if you get interlocked with those horns, you're kind of screwed. If you get stuck in those horns, it's not good. The horns also become extremely hot. You know, so you could get stuck on those horns, and then what happens is you might be burnt alive, because the horns are like almost like a metal. They're like, yes, they just get so hot that you can melt on the horns. So if you get stuck on that horns, it's not a good thing. Like if you get impaled by the edge of that horn, you're gonna cop some damage, and you're gonna have to rip yourself out off that horn before you eat. Like as soon as it starts charging up its flame attack, it's all of its head and the ram horns, the horns themselves, start to light up, and the heat is just so excruciating. You'll just burn alive or melt. So even if you don't get hit with a flame attack, if you stuck on even if you touch those horns, it's still going to do like 2d12 damage if it manages to hit you with the horns. So it's not just a blunt force trauma, it's also the fire, the heat of that horn will cause some severe damage. Anyway, I think I blabbed on too much. I'll let you all go. Enjoy this video. Thank you for watching, and I will release a stat block later when we maybe do the Zodiac Dragon calendars. Maybe there'll be a Zodiac Dragon booklet with a calendar. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.